Mm.
So the district manager took me out for a long walk. And she's asking me, what do you do with your money that you make? And I said, I pay bills with it or whatever I can, put gas in
Hmm.
my car to drive the 20 miles to get here. So she said, well, don't you think you should put it back into the center?
Of course, you should
So
donate it back.
Critical component to mind control. Being made over to be clones of the person who's at the top of the pyramid. Interested in this subject because of my own cult involvement. I was recruited in 1974 into a front group of the Moonies.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Hassan with another episode of my rebranded podcast, Cults, Culture, and Coercion. And I'm here today with Alisa Daniels, who's kindly consented to do an interview with me about her experiences in a Korean cult called Dahn. It goes by many different names. The latest, I believe, is Body and Brain. But the key thing, if you're in the world of being interested in meditation and yoga and healing, etc., is the leader is Ilchi Lee. He's a Korean. This is a cult that I've worked with many people over the decades, and they have similarities to my former Korean cult, the Moonies, because somebody from the Moonies, I think, is involved at a high level in Dahn. It's a cult that's very much venerates Ilchi Lee as the master, as the great healer. My understanding is he has diabetes and high blood pressure, and like many cult leaders, is just a serial liar about all kinds of things. But this cult is still recruiting, still draining people of money. And it's come to my attention, even though I've done so much work with this cult, that we've never done a podcast on them. So Alisa kindly consented to share. And let me just read a bit about you, Alisa, before we jump in. That you were born on the South Shore of Massachusetts, lived there your whole life. You're a mom of 3, a grandmother of 8, happily married for 42 years to a dedicated husband and father. Worked in the physical fitness field for almost 40 years, is now retired. You taught swimming, personal training, scuba. I love scuba diving, you know that.
yeah.
And management of gyms, and all secondary, you say, to motherhood. And when your oldest son started college, he became involved with Dahn Yoga. Not knowing anything about these groups, she tried to learn, became involved and to stay close to her son, and they got deeply involved. And from there, Alisa, welcome to my podcast, and thank you for sharing your story.
Hello, and thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so we know each other. You looked at the BITE model of authoritarian control, and had been filled out by a former master that I was exposed to previously. And so, tell us about how you got involved with this group, how much money it cost, how the toll it took. Share your story with our listeners, please.
So my son started college. He played hockey, and his hockey career was important to him. And he unfortunately had an injury, so he couldn't play. So he was looking for something to stay in shape while he recuperated. And he came across a person that introduced him to yoga. As he thought in the beginning it was yoga, but it was really a yoga cult, and it was Dahn Yoga. They called it Dahn Yoga back then. And he slowly got more and more involved. He sold things that out of his bedroom. He sold his guitar. He sold whatever he could. And he came home to us and told us he was going to go away to Arizona for a workshop, and that he He didn't have to pay for it. It was going to be paid for, and he just had to pay for his flight. And we were hesitant to let him do it, but he talked us into it. We didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about cults. My husband and I didn't know anything about cults.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back a different person, and we
Mm-hmm.
recognized that. And so we treaded lightly, trying to figure things out as we went along. And then I came down with cancer.
Mm.
So when I got my cancer, he wanted to introduce me to one of the masters in the center. And he told me
Sure.
I should respect her very much. She's a very higher uh, person in the organization. And
Mm-hmm.
so I spent a couple of hours with her, and it was quite nice. It was relaxing. It was meditative, and she gave me a few hints on how to get through my cancer, and I enjoyed it. And from there on, uh, we we were both going to the center, and um, I was willing because I was worried about my son.
Of course.
But there were
Yeah.
things that I knew that weren't right, but I still was willing. And because of that willingness and the love I had for my son, I got pulled in, and I spent a lot
Yeah.
of.
So if I may
Mm,
just interject,
mm.
people don't join groups they think are deleterious to their health. They think it's going to make their life better. It's going to help them. It's going to heal them. And so the allure of the certainty of members who are true believers is very powerful. And this cult has a history of just creating things to sell people that are going to heal them, whether they're golden turtles or whether or not it's teas or whatever. And they want to suck as much money out of people as they can. And they want people to recruit their family and their friends. And they want people to donate their time in unpaid labor for the group. And for many young men and women, they are being told this is their true path, that Ilchi Lee is enlightened, and they need to submit themselves to Ilchi Lee for their spiritual evolution, or else. And so there was a lawsuit by 27 former masters against the cult. It got a lot of publicity. This is DAHN, but the key is looking into Ilchi Lee. But I can tell you from my professional experience, this is a mind control cult of the first order, and it causes harm for folks.
Yes, it does.
So, about how many years was your family involved, and about how much money do you think you got
So
taken for?
uh, I can't tell you the amount of money. It was a lot. I mean, I think I mentioned to you, I just went into my home equity and wrote a check for $27,000 and gave it to them. I didn't discuss it with my husband. I didn't discuss it with anyone. I thought it was okay to do that, and it really wasn't. Uh,
That wasn't normal
no, it
behavior for
was
you
not
to
at
not
all.
discuss. So you were coerced? What
Yes,
was going
I
on that you
definitely.
did this?
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
because the cult teaches the ends justify the means. So if it's a good purpose, then it's ultimately moral, even if you're harming people, including
yeah,
yourself.
and my family members. But I'd say
Hmm.
a total of 4 years we were involved. I myself, a little over 2 years. Um, uh, I recruited my family. My mother, she did a $10,000 workshop. My
Hmm.
husband did a workshop. My sister did a workshop. My other son lived out in Arizona for 9 months at the center. We were called the Healing Family, as the center manager would call us, and we thought that we were doing the right thing and helping the world and bringing peace to people and focusing on our energy. That's the main thing,
Right.
was just try not to think about all the emotions and all the outside influences. Just keep focused on your pure energy that's in the center of your being.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and your pure energy is linked to Ilchi Lee's energy. If you pay enough money and go to enough things and do the meditations the proper way, and that's part of the mind control process, is this creation of a pseudo identity, a cult identity that you've been tricked to believe is your authentic self, but it's really your cult self.
so yeah, my mom mentioned to me that you're not yourself anymore. You seem cold. And I thought I was just the opposite of cold. I thought I was warm and loving and, wanted everybody to
Right.
love each other, but that focusing on the inner, just that inner energy or the inner thoughts and not thinking about the emotional part did make me cold, actually, and
Mm-hmm.
more concerned with what was happening within the group, really, than what was happening to the person I was talking to.
Right. Yeah. And often family members notice the radical change and try to point it out. And the member, blocks any things as negative energy.
Yeah.
So you don't allow those
Yeah.
doubts and such to come in. So I'm curious, do you remember any moments where you had an experience there that you were like, this isn't right? Like, I don't want to do this, or I don't want
I
to
actually had,
give more money.
well, I had that in the beginning, and but I was talked. I had a lot of private sessions with the manager of the center, my son, and a lot of different people, and then that would pass, and I'd be like, oh, this is okay, and then after a while, we'd come up again, like I felt uncomfortable or not feeling good about the whole situation, and I can't. Oh, I got your book. That's what I ended up doing. I got your book, and when I got your
So tell us about that. So it was a combating cult mind
yes,
control, or was it
it was
something else? And how did you find out about my work?
well, I was scared to death. First of all, I was loads of fear about reaching out to anyone or doing anything. And I just went online and I started looking, and your name came up, and I started searching for your book. I couldn't find it. I go to the bookstores because, that's what I like to do, and couldn't find it. I eventually, I think, found your website and ordered your book. I'm not sure which website I got it on. Read the book. I couldn't believe all the similarities to what I was going through and what you were saying in the book. So I, I, I finally said, this is a cult. I verbalized, this is a cult. I couldn't believe it. And the scariest thing I did was to contact you. That was the scariest thing I did. It was very hard for me to do that. But I filled out the forms, I closed my eyes, pushed the button, sent it to you, and then that was another whole story.
So let's just take a pause and just say that part of mind control is phobia indoctrination. It's in the E of the bite model of authoritarian control. And part of indoctrinating people into these kinds of so-called healing energy meditation groups is instilling an irrational fear that if you talk to anybody, especially a former member or a cult expert, terrible things are going to happen to you. So it really is an act of bravery. As you were saying, you had a lot of fear to reach out to me. But reading my book, it was probably clear to you. I had written this book way before Dahn Yoga. I didn't know about Dahn Yoga when I wrote the book in 1988. And because I was in a Korean cult, you were able to go, there's so much similarities here. It's strange. So this creates a dissonance between your cult identity that's been given this phobia and your real identity going, come on, like if it's real, then it should stand up to scrutiny and I shouldn't be afraid. And anyway, clearly this group is costing a lot of money. And your son was still involved, I believe, at the time you reached out to me.
He was, and he had to get permission to come home and see us or spend the holidays with us. So it was a lot of work to try to work around that and get him home. And I mean, he's a wonderful person. He's so worth having as a citizen and just a great person. And I just couldn't give up and say, oh, well, he's in a cult. I couldn't do that. And he was very angry with me. And it took a lot of years for him to come to terms with what we went through. But it was all worth it because he's such a productive human being and such a lovely person. And it was hard.
So share with my listeners what was he angry about? Wasn't it true you asked him to speak with to speak with me and to speak with someone who was an expert in Dahn Yoga, who was a critic?
First, he was upset that I became a critic. So some of the members would come to my house and talk to me, or he would take me to their homes to talk to me and try to tell me, look, this is an experience. You've had the experience, so it's got to be real, and things like that, and then just telling me that what I'm doing is terrible. And so, of course, I didn't listen to it because I saw the light, or whatever you want to say. I woke up, and then I wanted him to leave, and he didn't want to. He thought, years later, he told me that he thought it would have happened naturally, that he would have left. But I mean, he had posters. Ilchi Lee made posters of him that were huge. He was going to Korea for 4 months. He would do workshops, and they weren't going to let him go.
They were using him because he's a handsome, athletic, young American, intelligent. He was a great recruiter. Was he being paid?
No, he never had money. He lived in with a bunch of other people. They slept on mats on the floor. They would eat at the centers and eat communally, and usually they would try to eat the same things and healthy.
Right.
Yeah,
well, everything's relative, right? But this is really a parallel to the Moonies. I mean, I slept on the floor. I mean, when I was promoted to assistant director at the national headquarters, I had a bed, but that was later in my group. They just want people to submit their lives to the group, believing that they're going to save humanity and be their highest self. And I guess, so was your son involved first and then he got you in, or
no,
you got in and
he
got
was
him involved
first? And then when I developed cancer, he wanted me to have a healing session with Master Hong. And I did that. And I enjoyed that. And then my mother came in and my sister. And,
Yeah. So let me just interrupt you for a second,
mhm,
Alisa, and just say when you say things like, I enjoyed that, for my listeners, what I want them to understand is when you are being hypnotized to go into an altered state of deep
mhm,
relaxation, to turn off your mind, to turn off your critical thinking and your connections with the outside world, being in a trance feels nice. It feels floaty. It's relaxing. You're often doing deep breathing. You don't need to be in a mind control cult to learn how to do deep breathing or how to do self hypnosis or how to do meditation for that matter, because there are literally 1,000 different ways to meditate. But when these groups get a hold of you, they make you believe there's only one true master and one true meditation. So they get you in this funnel and they just keep creating new workshops, new sales techniques, new objects that are going to give mystical powers to you. And your son may be right. He may have gotten disillusioned, but what, after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? It's like, what parent wants to
right.
wait if they know their child is being taken advantage of and is missing out in the
Right.
real world?
So when I say I enjoyed it, I wasn't exposed to all the other things that they'd learned in this cult. So I was slowly exposed. The first session was beautiful. Everyone loved me. Uh, Hugs,
Love bombing.
beautiful meditations, healing thoughts. And then slowly I was indoctrinated, I guess you would say. And it
Hmm.
felt a little strange. And I was told, this might feel strange, but it's good for you. And then I ended up taking class. I took 100-day class where for 100 days I had to do 100 bows and recite the Chun Byu Kyun, I think it was. I don't remember. It was 100 bows every day for 100 days. And then,
Just bows before a picture of Ilchi Lee.
no, it
Am
was
I
it was the
correct?
Chung Byu
Or
Kyun. It was a prayer or something that he wrote, and we recited it as we bowed. And I did that for
hmm
100 days.
And you bowed to the
Yes,
floor, or what was
the
the
bow.
bow?
You go down with your down onto your knees, and then you bring your hands up over your head, and then prayer, and then back up, and then you come down and back up again in standing position. So you do that 100
Hmm.
times. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Yes.
exercise certainly, but to get people to commit for 100 days to do 100 bows, that's behavior control. And it has a very powerful indoctrinating effect when people are committing time and energy and doing these physical postures, because it kind of reinforces the notion that this is important, this is a priority,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets you deeper into that cult identity,
Mm-hmm.
is my take on it.
And we did hours and hours and hours of meditation. Hours. Some
Hmm.
days I could do 5 hours of meditation in one day.
Hmm.
Or I did another workshop. It was a lot of body tapping. What do I want? What do I want? And chanting different things and repeatedly saying different things to try to get you to go to your core energy.
Hmm.
So blocking out other thoughts and feelings and just go to your core
So tell
energy.
me, how did your husband react when he found out you took this money without
Oh, he
checking
was
with
not
him?
happy. No, he was not happy. Not happy at
So,
all.
so did he get critical of the group before you got critical of the group,
He
or
was
at the same
basically
time?
he was basically critical the whole time. But
Uh-huh.
I did talk him into taking a true self workshop, and he did that, but he thought it was kind of silly, and he wasn't really involved. He
Mm-hmm.
was easier to talk to, but he never became involved in the group. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he was very helpful in Aaron's exiting uh, the group. And yeah, so, and my sister too, she became very self-conscious in the group, the class, the weekend. It was 3 days, I think, for a true self workshop, and she became very self-conscious and acted very strange for probably a week afterwards or 2 weeks afterwards. She didn't like it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then my mom did the healing work. She did the true self workshop, and then she did the healing workshop out in Arizona for 10 days. And that was a lot of meditation and stretching and moving. And
Yeah, a lot of money too.
it was $10,000. Got a spiritual name. We each got our spiritual names.
Ah.
And
So
yeah.
that is a common technique in a lot of these religious cults where they want to change your identity. So why not give you a different name that
Hmm.
you relate to yourself? And that, again, this new name is your cult name,
Hmm.
right? That you misinterpret to be your true self
Yeah.
instead of your own authentic real self.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
am.
part of the trickery.
Hmm. I am nothing like that person that was in that cult. I am nothing like her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I just thank God
Yeah,
that we're
it
all
worked out. And your son, so how is your son doing? How's everybody doing?
wonderful. He's married. He has 2 children. He's a wonderful father and a wonderful husband, and he works hard.
Right.
And his wife is lovely. I love her, and they're doing great. They live 20 minutes away from us, and we have a nice relationship, and it's
And he
great.
knows you're doing this interview and you're going to be public talking about Dahn?
I don't know if I discussed it with him, but I will. I will.
I hope so.
I will.
I, I want him to be okay with it, obviously.
He'll be okay.
Yeah. And we're living in, 2025. There's just so much fear and anxiety, economic uncertainty, political tensions, etc. A lot of people are turning to alternative healing groups and meditation groups, etc. But people don't really have a framework for how to tell whether something is legit or isn't.
Yeah.
And that's one reason I really am appreciative of you doing this, because I want people to see intelligent, educated people
Yeah.
from good families
Hmm.
can get taken in. And
Yes.
it's often because a loved one gets in first, and because you love the person, you go out of your way to be open-minded, to, try to keep bridges open.
Yep.
And but what's different now is there's the internet, but the internet is now being manipulated, so it's not that easy to find critical information that's legit. And why I continue to do my work after so many decades is because I'm a former member of a cult, and I'm a mental health professional, and I think people know that they can trust me because I'm not making this up. This is an effort of passion and commitment and values that I continue to speak up, even though, there's a lot of powerful, wealthy groups that want to shut critics down. So I want to keep it up.
Well, I feel lucky that I found your book and and through that met you and
Mm.
had your counseling to help us become free of that group because they're very destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And they do illegal things and they hurt people and it's all hidden and you don't see it. And unless you're unless you're young enough where they can really take advantage of you and
Mm-hmm.
bring you in through.
Yeah, so you're bringing up another valuable point, I think, and I have let's see if I can find it quickly. I have a pyramid graphic that I like to use to explain to the public that, if you're on the outskirts of the group, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, maybe not. But if you're a fringe member, you're not going to see what's happening inside the group. I'm sorry, I have this virtual background. You're not going to see what's really going on. You're just going to know what they're sharing with you.
Yeah.
And so, and this is a truth about humans, is we believe what we want to believe. And most people, myself included, I didn't want to believe I was in a cult or I was brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
And when my family and friends told me I was in a cult and I was brainwashed, I didn't feel like I was brainwashed, and I didn't want to believe that I was in a cult. I thought I was following the greatest spiritual master in human history, Sun Myung Moon, who turned out to be a liar, a cheat, a gambler, a bigamist, a rapist,
He sounds a lot like
a
Ilchi
con
Lee.
artist. Well, it is a pattern of that we talk about with malignant narcissism, and that's what I have up on freedomofmind.com. Not only my influence continuum and bite model of authoritarian control, but the list of malignant narcissism that anyone can check out, and it just fits cult leaders to a T, because they're not only grandiose and have need for praise and admiration and a sense of entitlement and a lack of empathy, but they also think they're above the law, and they think nothing of lying or cheating or threatening former members or critics, and going after them, revenge, etc. And I say, if it's legit spirituality, it really should be love-based. It really should give you informed consent. You should be allowed and encouraged to ask critical questions and get actual answers, and not told you need to meditate more, do another program and then you'll understand.
Yeah.
It's like, no, explain it to me in the real world. And legit groups are not afraid of you talking to former members or reading critical literature.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really want anyone who's listening to this, maybe, your loved one or yourself, you're involved with something that somebody in your family said, are you in a cult? Are you being brainwashed? Or you're being cold? Or you're being different? Why not take a time out and reality test and seek out critics and former members and hear what they have to say and learn the bite model and look critically. I'm actually running a free anonymous survey right now, Alisa, at bitemodel.com. It's free, anonymous, and you can just answer a series of questions, and it will give you a number of how authoritarian the relationship or group you're in.
Wonderful.
And if you're an ex-member of Dahn or any group, there's a list of existing groups, and not all are negative. Some are healthy groups, because we want to do science here. But the idea here is that, again, you can reality test, and you can decide for yourself whether or not something is worth your time, your energy, your money, and your faith.
I did meet people that were in cults before they came into Dahn Yoga, and they didn't. Yeah, they just liked yoga. They liked meditation, and they were a married couple. I think he was a pediatrician and she was a psychiatrist, and they left the first group because they figured it out. It was a cult. And then they wanted to get involved again in meditation and yoga. And they were so devastated when the lawsuit came out and all that happened. And they realized that they were actually in another cult again. And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think I would, I think I would know the signs now, uh, of an
Well,
authoritarian.
you have the combating cult. Mind control was just gave a lot of stories of different types of cults, but then you knew that existed, so you could always email me
True.
and say, "Hey, what about this?"
Mm,
But that's the other thing that's worth saying is cults change their names all the time, and just telling people be careful of Dahn. Like right now, they're advertising themselves as Body and Brain.
hmm
You wouldn't know it's Dahn
hmm
unless you start to dig.
Yeah.
And the other thing people need to do is ask direct questions to their recruiter
Yeah.
and to whoever's in
Yeah.
charge. And if they say they're a nonprofit, that means their accounting records are available for checking. Destructive groups will never let you see their accounting
I
records,
remember at the end of the
right?
day when the manager of the center would check out all the money and whatever accounts, she would make copies of each bill that came into the center and have to send that in. So it wasn't just good enough to write things down and send the money in. She had to copy every bill on the Xerox machine or whatever it was, and that she used. And I the trust is not there from the upper people to the lower people. The lower people trust the upper
Mm-hmm.
people, but the ones in the top of the organization do not trust the people in the lower organization.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Yeah, because they're cheaters. The
Oh,
ones at the top know that they're exploiting and cheating
mm,
people. So they wonder, are people doing that to me?
mm,
And I need to double check them.
mm.
But again, it's like you can't go to a group and just hope that things are fine. You really need to do independent research online, and it's interesting now with AI. I honestly haven't been using AI to do this, but it's kind of being forced on you now, whether you have Google or Microsoft or whatever. But you could be, asking, what's the history of this leader, this founder? Is there any criminal background? Are there any articles that have been written, that bring up information critical of the group, etc.? But then you go to the group and say, what do I found this article. There is a lawsuit by former masters. What's this about? And if it's like a bad group, they're going to make you feel bad for asking the
Yes.
question. How dare you?
Mm.
Don't you trust us? As opposed to addressing the actual lawsuits and what's said in it.
So I had no idea about cults or controlling situations. I just had no concept of that. I thought that you had to shave your head and wear gowns or something to be in a cult. I had no
Right.
idea that it could be actual, normal, loving, wonderful people that get into these groups. I mean, the sabunims, they were called, the people that worked at the centers, they were lovely people, but they were trained
Sure.
to get more people into the group, and I had no idea I was being so manipulated, and
Right.
it's hard.
Yeah, my friend and colleague, now he passed away, Alan Shefflin, liked to call it the myth of invulnerability, that people think it could never happen to me or my family. It only happens to weak people or stupid people or uneducated people who get into cults, because the group is not going to promote and market itself as a cult. It's going to be a healing thing. It's going to be a justice movement. It's going to be, some healthy thing. But again, I say if it's legitimate, it will stand up to scrutiny, and don't just do your due diligence at the beginning, but you should be doing it throughout, because things happen and new information emerges. And when I learned that Ilchi Lee, even though he claims to be enlightened and can heal anybody, he can't heal himself. So if the leader who's selling healing is sick as a dog and has diabetes and high blood pressure, then how valid is the whole
His
system
lifestyle.
and the franchise that he's doing? Exactly. And so there's a lot of people who are starting to wake up from whatever closed system that a belief that they've been in. You know, it felt like they were, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about them, comrades, spiritual brothers and sisters. But the tell is if you're asking negative questions about the leader, the doctrine, or the policy, does everybody turn on you as the enemy, or do they welcome you and welcome the questions?
So when I was working in the center, some of the Sabonims would come to me and say in a very soft, whispery voice, "It's so hard to be a Sabonim. It's so hard to work in these centers." But very secretively. They couldn't complain or really talk to. They felt comfortable talking to me, I think, because I was part-time. I wasn't living at the center, although I spent a lot of time there. So I think, and I was older, and I think they felt comfortable talking to me about things like that. But it's all little red flags. It was all little red flags.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they probably trusted that you wouldn't tattle on them. But if you're in the core of a cult, you have to tattle. Otherwise, there's something wrong with you if you don't turn somebody in that's expressing doubts. But, the way I look at it now is those people were asking for help, like, get me out of here, but they didn't know how to do it.
I still feel bad about some of the people that are, after all these years, are still there because they're nice, good people. And I would love to be able to help them get out. I would love to be able to do something like that.
Well, maybe they'll be watching this. You never know. Maybe they'll reach out to you. Another point that I like to comment on that you said about a couple, one was a psychiatrist and another one was a doctor. It's like, when you see doctors and psychiatrists, you go, this must be okay. There's
and
this
there were a lot of
assumption.
them. There were a lot of them.
There's an assumption of that. And what I've learned, because I have a whole course for psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, counselors, but other professionals, no, the more mind you have, the more control can be exerted over you. And they want successful people because they have more money. They may not be able to work for long hours for no pay, but if they're bringing in new people for PR and giving money, that works for them. You were going to say?
Two things. One of my closest friends was a heart surgeon, and we're walking in Jamaica Plain, and he's explaining to me how he does his heart surgery. And the clarity of his description was just showing me how intelligent this man is. And he was so indoctrinated. I fear to tell how much money he invested in Dahn Yoga, and if he's still involved.
I know people have given hundreds of thousands to Dahn.
More than that. This is more than that. Yeah.
And they love trust fund babies who will turn over their trust funds.
Secondly, before I left, I spoke to the manager of the center, and I wanted to get paid. So we worked out a deal that I was to be paid an hourly rate. Of course, it wasn't very much. I'm embarrassed to tell you how much, but
tell us.
It was $11 an hour.
And what year was this, can I ask?
That was in 2005 or
Okay.
2006, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, after the lawsuit and everything came out, and I was, or no, it was before the lawsuit, but it was when the center manager had left.
Mm.
So the district manager took me out for a long walk, and she's asking me, what do you do with your money that you make? And I said, I pay bills with it or whatever I can. Put gas in
Mm-hmm.
my car to drive the 20 miles to get here. So she said, well, don't you think you should put it back into the center?
Of course, you should
So,
donate it back.
yeah, so I didn't agree to that. And because another red flag for me. And that was shortly afterwards is when I left. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, mm,
Wow.
yeah.
So you have the benefit now of looking back at the younger you.
Mm.
And if you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, what were some of the first things that, if you could go back in time, you would do differently?
Well, I would talk to my son in the beginning. I trusted him. And it's not that I don't want to trust my son. I would still trust him, but I would probably look more, like you said, look into the organization more and find out more about it and present him with that. And maybe try to convince him not to go out to Sedona for a week to get
Uh-huh.
indoctrinated. Yeah. Or maybe to join a legitimate yoga uh, facility. Um,
Yep.
and
So if I may opine with you, you did find my book eventually, but I think it's a mistake to just get my book and hand it to somebody who's gotten recruited into a cult already, because they're
mm,
going to report it. You know,
hmm
my mom just gave me Steve Hassan's Combating Cult Mind Control. Then that they'll use that to convince the person to cut off from their family, maybe even move them to another city or state or even country. But I'm encouraging everybody, particularly parents, to learn this stuff now and expose your children now. Don't wait till they're into something. Teach them the influence continuum. Teach them the bite model. You know, expose them to stories like this,
hmm
that you may believe that you're getting into something legitimate. A lot of people fall in love with their recruiter. That's a very common way of sucking people in.
hmm
And just do some preventive inoculation.
hmm
And right now, a lot of young people are watching all kinds of podcasts and documentaries on cults. So there's an interest about cults. But my frustration with most documentaries is it's more what I call trauma porn, as opposed to like really teaching people what they need to know
Yeah,
to protect
agree.
themselves from
Yeah,
these illegitimate groups.
yeah. I I just don't understand why they don't have an assembly or something for seniors in high school just to acknowledge the fact that these groups are out there and you're going to college and that's where they focus mostly on these new college students. And
Yeah.
I talked to a couple of people about an assembly, and it's very difficult to get into the schools, and you have to have all kinds of accreditations and certifications, and
Yeah.
it's just too bad that
So,
they don't do that.
So you bring up another valuable point, and that is that because decades ago, I was invited to universities to speak to freshmen and transfer students, to do trainings for resident advisors for those colleges that had, sleep-ins, facilities, dormitories, or whatever. But a lot of the big campuses stopped doing it because they thought it would be hard on their marketing to parents to send their kids to the university if they think there may be a cult recruiting on
They're at
their
all of them.
campus. Seriously. And then when it comes, but I do want to also add my experience with high schools is you're dealing with school boards, and then you get into
That's,
religious freedom, and
yeah.
are you persecuting? So what I recommend is if you're an activist as a parent, your kids entering high school or whatever, is you talk about teaching kids consumer awareness. And don't frame it as religious cults, but just consumer awareness.
Mhm.
How do, con artists and destructive, malignant narcissists trick people into relationships or to get them into scams or multi-level marketing groups or whatever? And especially not just critical thinking, but media literacy, like how not to fall into some of these rabbit holes online of conspiracy theory stuff,
Oh,
and how to find like legitimate experts that you can trust
yeah.
and reality test.
Yeah.
Because right now there's so many bright, talented people who are espousing BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like RFK right now, he doesn't believe in germ theory. And he's like taking away vaccinations that have saved countless lives of children. And it's not based on science.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to be harmed.
Yeah. That's a
So
whole
we have to
nother.
protect ourselves.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to thank you very much for being willing to share. Are any other recommendations? Any recommendations if you're listening to this and you're still involved with an Ilchi Lee entity? Talk about, life after leaving and getting your head together.
Well, try not to be too afraid if those red flags go up. Don't be too afraid to listen to yourself and to talk to someone about it that's not in the group, and try to get an outside point of view. And coming out of a group like that was very difficult. It took years, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. My family are so happy right now. I feel
That's
so
great.
blessed. Yeah, where my sons, and I have 2 sons and a daughter, and they're all very productive, wonderful human beings. And like I said,
Right.
they have my 8 grandchildren, and it's a whole nother life. It's a whole nother life, and
It's great.
yeah.
I really appreciate it. And just being willing to be honest. Hey, it happened to me.
Yeah.
And don't be ashamed or embarrassed.
Yeah.
Life goes on.
Yeah.
You learn your lessons, and you don't get like the family that was in a cult got into another cult.
Yeah.
Like, do your homework, learn about brainwashing and mind control, and don't just think about content angles of a group, but what are the techniques?
Yeah.
Are they being honest? Do they answer questions directly? Am I getting informed consent? Is there a heavy emphasis on money? And many cult leaders are living like multimillionaires, and followers are sleeping on the floor. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is that? It's not fair.
It's not fair. It's not. It's people that are dishonest and taking advantage of other good souls, and it's really a sad situation.
Yep. So we have a whole folder on Dahn on my Google Drive, and we're gonna, share this video, and we'll do a blog, and I'll also say I'm aware of at least one Facebook group for former members of Dahn Yoga. So if you are questioning and want to get help, you can seek it out or ask us for more information about this. And the bite model and the influence continuum really are a great roadmap to reality test. And I'll just add one more thing. I did a TEDx talk. How can I know if I've been brainwashed? And I tell my Moonie story, but I say the first step is always take a time out from the group, like take a vacation. When you're in one of these high demand groups, you're never allowed a real vacation, certainly not 2 weeks every year. You were laughing, so you were agreeing with me.
Yes, I am.
And learn about Lifton's 8 criteria or my bite model, and then seek out critics and former members. See what's out there and think for yourself. Do they have any credibility? Does that match with my experience or not? And don't hesitate to bring that negative information to the group and see how they respond. Because if they attack you for bringing negative information, that's then run away from the group. But if they are willing to address point by point in a factual content matter, then the group may be legitimate and may stand up to scrutiny. But in the end, it's your life, and life is precious, and it's your time, your money, and be involved with healthy groups that help people.
Yeah.
So thanks so much.
It was a pleasure.
And let's stay in touch.
Okay.
Give my best to everybody.
I will.
Take care.
You too.
Okay, great.